Well, just 5 days after Chief Judge Boseberg of the D.C. federal court threatened to refer Department of Justice lawyers to state bar associations for disciplinary actions because of their bad faith conduct in front of them, Pam Bondi just filed a judicial complaint against Judge Boseberg asking that he be investigated because of statements he made back in March, which suddenly have come to light again because the Department of Justice had Fox News run the article and run the story just 2 days ago. So they ginned up an event that happened in March where the judge made some comments, rightly so, about the defiance of the Trump administration causing a constitutional crisis, and then used that to have Fox News just 3 days ago come up with a new report on an old story, then used that to file their judicial conduct complaint against Judge Boseberg. Doesn't everybody see this as a direct response and retaliation because the judge has said he's going to refer all of those lawyers who lied in front of him for bar proceedings and bar disciplinary actions, including maybe disbarment? I see it. You will too, here on the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF. All right, let's get into it. Judge Boseberg is in the news. He'd rather not be. He's the chief judge of the D.C. Federal Circuit, where a lot of these cases involving Donald Trump have been filed. He's handling one major one. We call it JGG. That's the name of the plaintiffs in the case brought by the American Civil Liberties Union. That was a group of 200 people who in the middle of the night were hijacked, thrown on a plane by Donald Trump, and sent to El Salvador for a $6 million payment, done without due process, without habeas corpus rights, without anything. And the judge, having reviewed all of the evidence presented to him, issued an order, a command, an injunction for the planes to stop being flown. I think only 20 or 30 had been flown when the judge had the hearing. But knowing that there was a hearing coming up in the morning, the Trump administration during the night started sending more planes. The judge stopped it, issued an injunction, yet 2 more planes at least went to El Salvador. Judge held proceedings, and then after the temporary restraining order was entered, the Supreme Court eventually removed the temporary restraining order, but because of the conduct of the lawyers and the Trump administration, the Boseberg found probable cause that the Trump administration, Department of Justice, was in criminal contempt. First judge ever to find a Department of Justice and an administration in possible criminal contempt. They appealed that, the Trump administration. It got stayed by effectively 2 Trump judges, Rayo and Katsas, on the D.C. Court of Appeals, where it still sits. But since then, there's been new information about the defiance, refusal, disobedience of the Trump administration, primarily coming through not 1, but 2 whistleblowers who got fired by the Department of Justice, who sent in 30-page complaints against Emil Bovee, who's about to hit his judge for the Third Circuit Court of Appeal, his judge vote on the Senate floor this week. And this is all running interference to try to get Emil Bovee appointed, because the whistleblower said that Bovee, when he was in the Department of Justice, or is in the Department of Justice, had a meeting in March, same March period, in which he told the lawyers assembled that they were to tell federal judges to go F off, to go F you, if they're asked any information about Donald Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act to try to get people out of this country and to a supermax, notoriously bad, murderous prison in El Salvador. That all came out during the confirmation hearing. The judge, the same Judge Boseberg, on Thursday or Friday of last week, held a hearing, and he said that whistleblower report confirms everything that I found in my probable cause for criminal contempt. But because the appellate court, 2-1 with 2 Trump judges, put a pin in it and stayed his order, he was left with making the following observation. The lawyers in the room who promoted this, who allowed all of this to happen, the violation of my orders, the people to be sent to El Salvador, and all of that, acted in bad faith. It's supported by the whistleblower. I'm going to be holding some hearings related to it, and I'm considering making a referral to the bar associations about your bar licenses. And right on cue, the Trump administration had Fox News on the 17th of July run a story about something that happened in March in order to gin up this new complaint that Pam Bondi just filed. Let me show you, and it's actually cited in her letter. She puts the evidence of the conspiracy that I'm observing between the Trump administration and Fox News in her letter, Pam Bondi's letter. Let's roll the clip.
John, great to have you with us. So when you hear these comments that were reported by the Federalist from Judge Boseberg, he's with these, with the other judges, including justices of the Supreme Court, and they're talking at a conference, and he's suggesting, it sounds like, hey guys, are you concerned that this president is going to push us to a constitutional crisis by ignoring our orders? How does that sit with you?
Martha, I'm really disturbed by the reported comments. Look, I'm not one to focus on an individual judge and say they ought to be impeached, as the president has said with Judge Boseberg, or to infer some kind of nefarious motives. But what he did here was really inappropriate. And I think it's worse than what the media has been reporting so far. As you set out in your introduction, Martha, this judge has been wrong on so many issues involving Trump.
You'd think he's reporting about something that happened, like yesterday. It happened, the statements that Boseberg made at a judicial conference, which I don't think he's going to deny, which anybody with their eyeballs can actually state and see that the Trump administration is being defiant and disobedient against federal judges. We've got 3 United States Supreme Court justices that have said it in the courtroom, in their opinions, in their dissents, and in conferences and interviews since they've been on summer vacation. Just read Ketanji Brown Jackson. Just read Kagan. Just read Sotomayor. It's exactly the same thing that Boseberg is saying. They're going to make, are next going to make complaints against the 3 of them? Sometimes covering the political and legal news cycle feels like chasing a laser pointer, chaotic, relentless, and sometimes exhausting. And just like my cat, the news can go from napping to total mayhem in a split second. But when the headlines get too wild, there's one guaranteed comfort: curling up on the couch with my cat and knowing she's eating like the queen she is, thanks to Smalls. This podcast is sponsored by Smalls. If you're a listener of this show, you know that Chanel cannot live without Smalls. Last night, I fed her the turkey recipe, her absolute favorite, and let me tell you, it was gone in 30 seconds flat. Smalls cat food is protein-packed, made with preservative-free ingredients you'd find in your fridge, and delivered right to your door. That's why Cats.com named Smalls their best overall cat food, and I totally get it. Since switching, my cat's coat is softer, her energy is more balanced, and no joke, her litter box doesn't make me gag anymore. Still skeptical? Forbes ranked Smalls the best overall cat food, and BuzzFeed said, my cats went completely ballistic for this stuff. What are you waiting for? Give your cat the food they deserve for a limited time only. Because you're a Legal AF listener, you can get 60% off your first Smalls order plus free shipping by using my code LegalAF. That's 60% off when you head to smalls.com and use promo code LegalAF. Again, that's promo code LegalAF for 60% off your first order plus free shipping at smalls.com. So we've got that reporting from March has been out for a while. Apparently the Federalist Society got it like a month ago. And they weren't going to, it's obvious the Trump administration was going to ignore it, didn't think it was a big deal, didn't move on it in March, didn't move on it last month, only moved on it now because Boseberg is threatening their lawyers, which of course they failed to reference anywhere here. Let me read to you from the letter. I'm going to post it in the Legal AF Substack also. This is sent to Chief Judge Srinivasan of the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Dear Chief Judge Srinivasan, on March 11th, 2025, by the way, they never date their letters. Let me just see something. It's like a thing with this Department of Justice. They never date their letters because they don't want it to be so obvious that it is stale news. So an undated letter that came in yesterday. March 11, 2025, Judge Boseberg attended a session of the Judicial Conference of the United States which discussed administrative matters. Okay. Judge Boseberg attempted to improperly influence Chief Justice Roberts and 24 other federal judges by straying from traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a constitutional crisis. Well, he had a lot of, he had 4 months of the Trump administration actions to fall back on. Judge Boseberg had no basis. This one made me laugh out loud. The Trump administration has always complied with all court orders. They haven't. That's why there's 200 people sitting or had been sitting in El Salvador until they got human trafficked by the Trump administration and traded to the Maduro regime in Venezuela to release 10 people. That's the same 200 people. They didn't comply with Judge Zinnis's orders to return Abrego Garcia. They didn't comply with certain orders of federal judges not to destroy departments and divisions, not to defund, not to put whole government agencies and employees through the wood chipper. None of that. All violations. Multiple contempt proceedings, multiple observations by federal judges of defiant, disobedient, contumacious conduct by Donald Trump. And then we have the whistleblower who finally said the truth, which is they were told, the Department of Justice lawyers were told to lie to federal judges. So let's use that as the backdrop. All missing, of course, from Pam Bondi's undated letter that she didn't even sign. She had Chad Mazzell, who's participated in some of these immigration litigation matters, as the chief of staff. I have to look him up. I'm not even sure he's a lawyer. Anyway, they throw him, Pam Bondi doesn't even have brass ones enough to sign her own complaint letter. She puts her chief of staff up to it. That's courage. That's professional ethics, Pam. So they then outline that right after that statement, he then finds the administration in probable cause for criminal contempt, issues orders, temporary restraining order, which they all blow through, and don't comply with. Then here's the trumped up part, right? The manufactured part on page, they also don't like page numbers. Who makes these things? I don't have page numbers, I don't have dates, but it looks like it's on page 3. They say, in a recent interview, so it's suggesting that they didn't know about it till they watched Fox News, which is a lie, because it's obvious to me that they got this guy to go on Fox News to attack Boseberg so that they could bring a letter on information that didn't look as stale. But I don't know how reporting about something that happened in March, 3-4 months later, makes it less stale. But here's what they say. In a recent interview, University of California, Berkeley law professor John Yoo criticized Boseberg's actions. Then they drop a cite to it, as if this makes the information more credible, because John Yoo went on Fox News to be interviewed. Here's what they want to have happen. They want a special investigative committee to inquire about Boseberg's conduct. They want interim measures, corrective measures during the investigation, and they want to have, here we go, the JGG case reassigned from Boseberg. This is what they want. They want to get rid of Boseberg. It's what they always wanted. Respectfully, a person not named Pam Bondi. All right. If I'm Srinivasan, the chief judge of the appellate division, I reject this. These are not inappropriate comments to make in a committee. These are not inappropriate comments to make before cases that are in front of the court or could be coming in front of the court. No more so than, and if I were him, I would cite Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, Judge Sotomayor, Judge Kagan, all Boseberg's bosses who have expressed similar problems about this administration. They asked Ketanji Brown Jackson recently, what keeps you up at night? The assault on democracy. Well, who does she think she's talking? Who do they think she's talking about? Let's roll that clip.
I would say the state of our democracy. I would say that I am really very interested in getting people to focus and to invest and to pay attention to what is happening in our country and in our government.
All right, I'm going to continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. Take a minute, free subscribe here. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel. That's the love we need to keep us on the air. Hit the subscribe button, all for free. No paywall here, no smoke or sunshine. Till my next report, I'm Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.